and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content.
I say to the guy, "That's not a mouse. That's my brother."
It's even funnier the second time.
And if you want to know where that came from, just hop over to Flip the Script on Spotify.
Hell yeah.
This episode's now sponsored by Flip the Script.
Yeah, let me give you $1.
Alright, I can't believe it. This is the year anniversary of the Book Stop podcast. Yes!
This is me snapping, and congratulations.
It's crazy. I can't believe it's already been a year. It flew by, but also dragged.
Yeah, man. It's been 525,600 minutes.
Is that what that means?
I think.
Is that what the song's talking about?
Yeah. I guess so. That or something about rent prices.
But yeah, we're back again. I'm super excited if you can't tell. We are here with Kim.
Hello, I'm Kim.
Alright, what book did you bring for us to talk about today?
Alright, so I brought The Obelisk Gate, which is the second installment in a trilogy called the Broken Earth Trilogy. You and I actually recorded the first podcast about the first book.
Yeah.
So we're here for the second installment, and it's called The Obelisk Gate.
Yes, I'm very, very excited. So The Obelisk Gate is by M.K. Jemisin. So this book was published in 2016. As you said, it is the second of the Broken Earth series. So this book alone won the 2017 Hugo Award, as well as the RT Books Review Award in 2016.
Like you said, this book won the Hugo Award in 2017. The first book of this trilogy also won the Hugo Award in its year. And the third one also won the Hugo Award, which made N.K. Jemisin the first person to win 3 years in a row for each book of a full trilogy.
That's awesome.
Which is like crazy and tells you just how good this series is.
It is such a good series. We're going to talk about it in a second, but I can't rave about it enough. I know you brought the first book onto the pod, and I am so glad that you did. It's a great series. It's a great world to jump into and just kind of explore and learn about the lore behind it. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
It's very refreshing fantasy.
Yes. As always, before we jump into it, we're going to play a little game.
Oh god. Okay.
So you are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds.
Mommy issues. Done.
Literally.
I don't even need 30 seconds. It's just... this whole second book is just so focused on the relationship between Esun, who is our main character, and Nasun. Even though they're not even in contact in this book, it dives deep into their similarities, their differences, and how they have affected each other. So to give it like a little bit of a larger 30-second summary, we get side adventures for sure, and also like Shafa. Shafa has his own adventure, and it ties back into the relationship and the similarities between Nasun and Esun. Mommy issues. The Obelisk Gate.
Perfect. A lot of this book is about points of views and being able to see the story over again through somebody else's point of view. Before we hop into it, I'm going to summarize really quick for anybody that hasn't heard about this series. So, the seasons of endings grow darker as civilization fades into a cold, long night. Isun, once Damaya, once Cyanite, now Avenger, has found shelter but not her daughter. Instead, there is Alabaster, Ten-Ringer, destroyer of the world, with a request. But if Isun does what he asks, it would seal the fate of the stillness forever. Far away, her daughter Nasun is growing in power, and her choices will break the world.
Damn right, and that is going to come in the third book.
So, what is your favorite quote from this book?
Okay, so again, similar to the first book, it was really hard for me to choose just one. Because you and I can't say this enough, but like these books are so deliciously written. Like, yes. I think I compared the first one to when you like slowly eat dark chocolate, and I would give this one that same kind of vibe. So it was very hard to choose one specific quote.
Absolutely. Like, this book has so many good lines. It's to the point where it kind of has this mysterious meaning behind everything that there was some lines that I was like, I have to stop and like, is there a second meaning behind this that she's trying to portray?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there is absolutely like every line, even just like simple detail lines are just so amazing.
Yeah, and it's so, a lot of times it's so very, what's the word? Like stream of consciousness because of the tense that it's written. It's very how someone would think about things, which really hits a lot harder, I think, because specifically for these characters' individual and similar traumas, like they'll say things in their mind that when you're reading it, it's very harsh and it hits. And these are things that we all sometimes think because of insecurity or, you know, what other issues that we have. So there are things that they'll say like, Essen will say something like, oh, you are a monster, in reference to herself or something. And it's like, even that kind of stuff is very powerful because it hurts you to read as a reader because you are familiar with similar thoughts and you are also like in the experience of this character, and you know, like she's only saying that in her mind because she's been so like negatively programmed, you know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I did find, okay, so here's one of my favorite quotes from the book. It's towards the end and it's very direct and very powerful. So this is Nasun, the daughter main character. This is towards the end, and she says to her dad, she says, I think I understand why you hate us. I've done bad things, Daddy, like you've probably thought I would. I don't know how not to do them. It's like everybody wants me to be bad, so there's nothing else I can be. So that's really hard.
Yeah.
And again, it's very direct. It very much gets you to the point of realizing that like she's very self-aware of the fact that like all of this like racism and hatred that has been placed onto her and her mother and all these other people has like, it's, I don't even know how to describe it well, but it's that sort of thing where like if you tell someone their whole life you are bad, you are scary, you are this, you are that, blah blah blah, at some point it seeps so deeply into your own thoughts that it's like you become the monster in a sense. And it's very hard, and it's not like that happens to everybody, but it's something that is very difficult. Okay, another way to put it is like everybody has seen videos on the internet of like a cat that jumps like a bunny or a cat that barks like a dog or something because that cat has been raised with bunnies or with dogs. And I think that is kind of a similar psychological example of that sense of like if you are surrounded by a certain mentality, if you are surrounded by a certain messaging in your mind, like at a certain point it becomes almost inescapable or extremely difficult to escape that
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like that's one of our main characters and she's so young.
Yeah.
And she's already gone through so much, and she's just outright saying like, you guys have told me all my life that I am this, so I've become this, kind of thing.
It kind of doesn't leave a lot of room for improvement within her own mind to make it a good thing because she's always been taught that it's a bad thing.
Right.
She's going to kind of fight against all of the people. Like in the future, maybe if they're going to teach her that it's not a bad thing and that it could save the world, and she's just gonna, I don't know, I feel like it's gonna kind of counteract it and she's gonna see it only as a bad thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like another term to put on it that I just thought of. Internalized misogyny is an example, right? Where like you grow up and you hate the color pink because every message around you is telling you like, ooh, pink is a girl color. It's crazy like that.
It's literally just a color.
Exactly. And it's a dope ass color.
That is a great quote, and I think it really sums up this character and the history that she has. The quote that I brought was actually the beginning of the book, and it kind of follows that same guideline that you have. The quote is, denying what you are doesn't keep people from knowing what you are.
That's hard.
Again, it's literally the moral of the story. All of these people try so hard to hide what they are. Isun, for example, literally goes into 10 years of hiding after everything that happens with Alabaster. She has to hide who she is, and yet her children are coming of age and are starting to show the orogeny, and she has to teach them you can't be out in the open with this because you will get killed and you will die. But at the same time, like, she doesn't want to hide that power. Like, she knows that they have it, so she wants to teach them, because just denying it isn't going to make it go away.
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of just ties into what I'm probably personally going to keep talking about this whole podcast.
Okay.
Is like the core of this second book. Again, going back to like mommy issues is like how I would summarize it, because this book largely is about the relationship between Nasun and Esun, and specifically kind of like what you're saying, where it's like, if you are like a gay son or a black son or what, like if you are not a cis white male child, right? You are grown up to in this world that thinks negative things about who you are in various ways. So a lot of times parents will sort of project their own internalized discriminations on their child. And I think that's exactly something that's happening in this book. And again, that's like a core part of it. Going back for a second, early on, we get this quick snippet of like Esun yelled at, kind of abused her daughter growing up. It just explores this whole like, we love our main character, both of them. We love both of our main characters. And so we're so used to our main character Esun and feeling this empathy for Esun that when we get that quick snippet and we're like, oh, she abused her daughter, we're like so quick to empathize with that in a way and like try and understand it. And I think that's what makes it so much more powerful, is like, we don't excuse that, right? There's no excuse for that. That is not okay. But because we're so attached to this character of Essen, and because we understand so much about her, we understand like what she is doing to her daughter is a projection of all of her internalized hatred that the world has put on her. You know, so it's sort of like that passed down generational trauma.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that she does to her daughter, the things that Shafa did to her while she was a child, like breaking her hand, for example, was passed down from when she was a child to how she trains her child. And I think that's going to really come back in, like, later we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen in the next book. And I think that is one thing that is going to come back where it's going to bite her in the back really bad. All right, so we're going to hop over to our next section here. So what are some things that you liked about the book?
Oh, everything. But more specifically, again, I'll reiterate, I think the tense that these books are written in is so eloquently done. It's, what is it called again? Second tense?
Yeah, second person.
Second person. Yes, thank you. A bold choice and works so perfectly for the story. So A, I love that. I love second person that it's written in. B, I love the fact that we get different storylines in a sense. Like, it's not all one person the whole time. We get various characters. Oh, and then on that note, C, I love that we get this very unpredicted story with Shafa that I would have never thought we would have gotten. And I hope we get into it a little bit more. But Shafa has quite a wild ride. Like, in the first chapters, he basically gets like tossed around the ocean and like gets amnesia and all this stuff. And it simultaneously changes him and doesn't change him.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that we get a very interesting story with him, because I kind of expected him to become sort of the quintessential villain, but it's changed.
Just to go back to the second person thing, I agree. I think telling any story with different points of view is very enriching, because you get to see so many different kind of aspects and obviously point of views, and you get to see different kinds of reactions from other characters. But specifically the second point of view, I personally am not a huge fan of those kind of storytellings, but the way that Jemisin did it in this one is absolutely amazing. Like, how it's in second point of view because it's like Hoya that is explaining the story to her, so it makes sense why it's in second person. But yeah, points of view, I think, is one of the best ways to tell a story, especially if you want to get that lengthier book.
Yeah.
you can just retell the whole story all over again.
And then again, also, like I talked about earlier briefly, you get those moments where the character will say something. There will be a line like, oh, you monster, right? Or like, oh, you terrible person. Or like, oh, you suck, or that kind of thing. And it just hits so much harder, and it really solidifies like your empathy for that character and your understanding of what they're going through and how this is so deeply ingrained in them and how it's a constant struggle.
It just makes the book feel so alive. Like, instead of being stagnant on one character the entire time, you just get to hop around, meet all these people.
You're so much more like attached to the characters. I think.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Something that I've kind of gone back and forth on. Sometimes I don't like, but sometimes I do like. And I think overall I do like, because it's a very another like bold artistic choice, is the fact that her imagery, she doesn't go overboard with her imagery. And sometimes it's difficult because I'm an imaginative person and I love to have the details in there so that I'm like, oh yes, I can paint the picture perfectly. But I think it's very well done.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to like elaborate on that. It's done in such a way that doesn't overly focus on the visual details, but again refocuses you on like the emotion of the action.
Yeah. Wish that we had some sort of visual. I would love like a movie, a TV show, a video game, or just to simply be in her mind to see how this stuff works, because I think it would just be amazing if we had some sort of like visual thing. Like, this needs to pop off. Like, at this point, it's been around for a few years. It needs to have that big like moment where everybody's kind of like talking about it. It needs to have this like Hunger Game or like Divergent moment, I guess you could say.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because they are making either a TV series or a film series based on this trilogy.
Are they actually?
Yeah, I looked it up before recording because I was like, I also wanted to tie it in because, again, my podcast, we talk about adaptations. So eventually you and I will be able to re-talk about this whole series and the way that they adapted it.
Dude, my heart is a fluttering right now. I'm so excited.
It's in the very early stages.
Yeah.
But it has been, like, the story rights have been bought for, I think they said, like, 7 figures or something. Like, she got, like, a nice payday out of this.
That's amazing. She deserves it.
Yeah, so a couple years down the line, we should be getting, again, I don't know if it's going to be a TV adaptation or a film adaptation. I prefer film. It will be coming to the big screen.
Oh my god. Well, let's talk about some things that I like about this story. So I obviously love the character development and that we get to see more background, as we've already discussed, but also just the details. Like, and not only the characters themselves, their background, but the world around them is so detailed, down to like the single atoms, literally. It's so detailed. The power themselves, the orogeny, the animals within it, like everything is just so detailed, and there's so much lore behind it. Another thing I really liked is that the names in the books were very gender neutral. That they would say a name and you wouldn't know what gender they were, so until they specifically gendered them. So I liked that they are very, I mean, that's typical for like fantasy names, but for this one I felt like it was very intended to be that way, or you didn't know. And the other thing that I absolutely love about this book is the women and just people in general of color. And not only that, but the women, either a power or in a status of power, which is amazing.
Yes, and like we can talk about Ika later because Ika is such a great example of a woman in power, specifically a woman of color in power, that I think really is one of the highlights of this book for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she did, obviously being an African American woman herself, she did an absolutely amazing job with keeping these characters so grounded, but also having them have those like moment of weakness. So just amazing job all around.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you didn't like about this book?
I think honestly, if I had to say anything, it's difficult for me, some of the harder subject matter. Like I guess there's not so much in this book as there was more in the last book, but there still is. So like abuse and trauma and that kind of thing. And it's very heavy and it's painful to read through. So I would say, technically speaking, I didn't like that because it's painful to read through. But it's not something that I would ever take away from the book because it's so essential.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like when you watch a movie, like a horror movie, and something scary is about to happen on screen, and you like wince or you like close your eyes or whatever, like because you technically don't want to see it, but also you're enjoying the movie. Like it's an excellent story. So I wouldn't take that out of the book, but I didn't like it because it is difficult. As it should be.
So one thing I didn't like about this one is that obviously it's the second book in the series and there's only 3 books, so this one kind of felt a little bit like a bridge book. A lot of like information dump. It's just like a setup for the last book. There were times where it was a little slow, where we were just kind of getting information. So I personally didn't like that. Like, especially Isun's point of view, it was very much all pretty much all information, which obviously completely makes sense. You have to put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book was all world building and introducing the characters. This one has to have some kind of plot itself. But I don't know, I felt like this one was a little slower and a little bit bridgy.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff in this book is like you said, it's very slow. And I didn't mention this when I was reading like the last half of this book. I had just got my booster shot from the vaccine, and I was like starting to experience the side effects. So I was like having like kind of a hella fever, which was fine because like it burned off in a couple hours because it was supposed to. But anyways, I was reading this book and I was having this fever and these side effects, and I was loving the book and I couldn't put it down. But also I was like, I don't even know how to put it. I was like kind of almost tripping in a sense. So like the slowness of it, like I was there and I was reading it, but it was all kind of going over my head, if that makes sense. So yeah, that just sort of is a testament to the fact that, again, like you just said, there are parts that drag on in the same way that like Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers has those moments, but they are important when you get to the third book for sure.
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely.
Hell yeah.
So go back to the beginning of the book. So right when we jump in, we are immediately in the point of view of Jinja is running away with Nasun, and he's trying to figure out a way to cure her. And we have these subtle flashbacks, which I found extremely interesting. I loved that she kind of went back and I guess, like, not really give him, like, a save grace, I guess, but to just give, like, that mindset of, like, why do people think of this with people that have orogeny? And I also love all the subtle reminders as the story unfolds within his point of view of, like, what happened in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And all the background information is being subtly reminded. It's sort of like a whole information dump at the beginning of the book that a lot of books do, and it's the second book of a series. This one was very subtle, and I liked that.
Yeah, and like you said, I think what helps it work so well is the difference in point of view, because it's a way of like giving a quote unquote flashback like new life. Like you're not like directly being like, oh hey, remember that time that this tragic incident happened? Let's talk about this. It's more like, let's go back to it from a different angle, which I think is incredible because you get that. It's sort of almost like when you're doing like a review for a test and somebody words it differently just to try and like catch you off guard, and it helps you like remember it better because you're thinking about it from a different angle. God, I love this book.
I know.
I want to read it again. Like, I'm serious. It's so good.
All right. So my favorite character in this book, it's very hard to choose because every character is so well developed and have such an impact to the story. But I'm most intrigued with Nasun. I am very excited to see where her story leads, and I admire that she starts out as this very naive child, as she's literally like 9, 10 at the beginning of the story. And just to watch her grow into this powerful being that we don't really know what she can do yet. We get subtle hints like how she can feel the moon and stuff, but we don't get enough where we know. With her being so young, the only thing she really wants is a family. She wants somebody there that's going to take care of her, and that's why she clings to Shafa so much, is because he's the only one that's ever shown her any kind of love. So I really like her. I'm very excited to see where her character goes from here and what kind of impact she has on the story.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about it more when we get to the ending, but with like the last few lines of this book, it leaves you with that, gives you that sense of like, oh shit, what is she gonna do? Because you kind of know what she's gonna do, but you're also like, we have a whole nother book, like things could change. Yeah, she grows so much in this book, most of it for very unfortunate reasons, but a lot of it is just like her character is such kind of, again, a reflection of her mother in ways that, like, her strength and the fact that she can sort of outthink people in advance, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know, she's just great.
She's awesome.
So I respect the hell out of that. It's a great favorite character.
Thank you. What is your favorite character?
Ika. I was thinking about this a lot because I was going between two, but long story short, Ika's my favorite character, and she's not like a great character, I guess, in the sense that like she's not a great person. Like she has negative qualities and she does questionable things, but if there's one thing I know from this book series, it's that they do a great job of establishing that every character has good and bad in them, right? Like even our main character kind of thing. So Ika, I would say, is my favorite character. She's a reflection of politics, right?
Right.
In the sense that like she's a woman of color in power. She's an Orogene who's basically like the leader of this underground city, basically.
Right. It gives me like what's it called? District 13 vibes.
Yes, I was gonna say that. I was literally gonna say that next. She gives me President Coin vibes.
Yeah.
And in like a slightly different way, but it's that balance of, you know, that she's gone through difficulty. You know that she is experiencing a lot of the similar discrimination that all Orogenes face. However, she is in this position of power, which sort of changes the dynamic of her motivations and her choices. Yeah. So, for instance, there's this one very, very powerful moment in this book where these outside people are like, we're racist. We don't like you guys. Blah, blah, blah. Get rid of all of your Orogenes. And Ika's like, wait. Let's put it to a vote. Do you guys think we should get rid of all the Orogenes? And she herself is an Orogene, again.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy. She's like, okay, guys, do you think we should be racist? Putting it to a vote.
Yusin's like, shut that down. We're not doing that.
Yeah, shit happens, and then eventually Essen is like, that's dumb. We're not gonna vote on whether or not people are people. Like, you can't, like, what? And it's again a reflection of politics. It's again kind of a President Coin type thing where it's like unfortunate. And you can understand where this character is coming from. Because if you were in this character's shoes, you would probably do the same thing. You would probably be like, yes, for the sake of fairness, we will put it to a vote. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like that Dumbledore quote from Harry Potter where it's like, in the end, we must all decide between what is right and what is easy. Kind of reminds me of that. What I want to say, long story short, about Ika, why I love Ika so much as a character, is because she is both the good and the bad of a girl boss.
Awesome. Yeah, she's great. I had mixed feelings about her. I loved her and I didn't love her a ton, then I loved her again and then I didn't love her a ton. I don't know, I went back and forth with her. I think that she had a very difficult job and she had to make a lot of very difficult decisions. There was a lot of times where she was very alone. So, hoping she's in it more and that we get to see a little bit under that thick skin of hers, where we kind of see a little bit more. I want to know more about her background and, like, how did she become the leader of this? Like, I know that Castrima is run by Origins, and, like, physically, the only thing keeping it from sinking is Origins and their powers. So, obviously, they need a strong one. And Isun said multiple times that she would be like a 6 or 7 ringer, so she's got to be pretty powerful. And she tried herself to get to the Obelisk Gate. She's got that willpower and she's got that strength, so I just want to see more of it. I want to see more of her.
Me too. So much, good, bad, and otherwise. You know, she could become like a main antagonist of the next book, or she could become
the strongest ally,
a main protagonist. She's kind of in between, I think, at this point.
Alright, so I want to talk about the plot for a little bit. So, if you haven't obviously read them, this one picks up right where the first one leaves off. Coming to Castrima, she is entering this town, village, I guess you would say, the gathering, I don't know. She enters this community because she's kind of being drawn here. She gets there and she finds Alabaster, who used to be her mentor when she was younger, back when she was Cyanite. Alabaster is slowly turning into stone.
Yeah.
Because, as we find out later, he has opened Obelisk Gate. And he's telling her, you know, I really can't do anything anymore. My hands and legs are now stone. So I have to pass this on to you. I know you could be a 10 ringer. I know you're stronger than you think you are. And what I need you to do is I need you to get that moon back to its daddy. That's pretty much.
Back to Earth Daddy.
Back to Earth Daddy. But yeah, back to Earth Father. This will help, or this will stop, or the seasons, I guess, in general. So I love that we kind of get a background of, like, why they started.
So this is both for our audience and also for me, because, again, I was, like, kind of, like, in a fever dream reading part of this. For the sense that, like, Alabaster is basically asking her, like, hey, rope in the moon, bring it to Earth Daddy. Later on, that happens with her daughter as well. It's like, but they're doing it in different ways for different reasons. Because, like, from what I kind of gathered from it, it's like Essen is sort of being told to put the moon in a better orbit is kind of what I was getting. Whereas Nasun is being told, like, grab that moon, slingshot it right up into our planet and kill everyone. But was I reading that correctly?
I think Esun is doing it for the good, while Nasum is doing it more to see what would happen, to see what it will cause. While Esun, kind of, being older, she understands what it means, while Nesun doesn't really understand, but can sense that power in that entity in the sky, and is kind of like pulling it towards back to Earth Daddy.
Earth Daddy.
But yeah, so we pick up, and, obviously mother and daughter have not gone back to each other, but not very far away. Like, far away, but not, like, extremely far away, where Nasun is holding up in this camp type deal I was picking up on.
Yeah.
With Shafa, and, she's growing in strength. She ends up killing her dad. It's this whole story. You gotta read the book.
It's a great scene, though.
Amazing scene, yeah. And then Castrima ends up getting attacked by this clan, I guess, where they have, like, a city, but they're trying to get more land. But anyways, Castrima gets attacked, and so Isun has to, like, tap into that strength that the Obelisk Gate has, and turns into, like, this, like, really strong being, and then ends up, like, passing out at the end. Alabaster turns into a stone eater. Hoya comes out of a hatchable egg.
Oh, fucking that kid.
I mean, he's not a kid anymore.
That kid is crazy.
Yeah, he was the little boy from the first one, if you remember. And then he comes back, torn up by the enemy's stone eater, and comes back, and then he puts himself into a cocoon, and then hatches a few hours later and is fine, and a grown man with chiseled abs and black as night. And then, I guess, to jump to, like, favorite relationship really quick, I would say mine was definitely Hoya to Esun. Not necessarily the other way around. I just found, like, his connection to her, I don't know, I wouldn't say weird, but very, like, the way that he felt towards her was very, I don't know, abnormal, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, he really, really cares for her, and he has this, like, very strong need of God to keep her safe, and that he's important to her. I wouldn't necessarily say it's, like, as far as a love interest.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hinting that way, that he's, like, in love with her.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reverse of the Renesmee Jacob. God, oh, what a time. We literally just watched that, like, a week ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. I find it harder because, like, I'm seeing it from Esun's point of view, where she still sees him as a child. And obviously he's not. He's an immortal being, and he's like a soul. He's not really the Stone Eater's, like, physical appearance. He's just the soul of Hoya. But yeah, I'm very, very interested to see where it's going in the next one and how that's going to play.
I have a miniature theory about, like, what he represents and what he might become in the next book, and it's kind of sad and negative, but I think in some way he represents, like, the like, objectification, voyeurism, and that kind of stuff of women of color. And I know it's not how it's reading to me right now. I will say that's not how it's reading to me, but I have, like, that's, like, just kind of my theory prediction for how that might develop.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, and I don't really know the specifics of what may happen, but the fact that he has this interesting sort of undefined love for her, like, right now it's reading differently. It's reading nicer than that, but I have sort of an unfortunate feeling in my stomach that might be the way that it all develops. I don't want it to. Right. I want it to be a much more beautiful thing, because I think he is a very interesting character, and I think the fact that he is immortal, and it is like that reverse Renesmee Jacob thing, can make it more of a different type of love, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, like, really like a full-on, like, what we think of love right now, which is, like, married, have kids, happily ever after. It's not that kind of thing. I think it could be a much more beautiful thing. I don't know. Again, that's just like my negative prediction.
It's kind of like the connection that Alabaster and the other Stone Eater, Anemone, their connection was, she was very like into him and only cared about him and wouldn't see anybody else as an ally but him. So I feel like maybe they just connect to something and someone, especially if they're going to do good to them, that they kind of just like connect. I don't know though. I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see where those stories end off in the third one. Or if they end off. Like, for all we know, because I haven't looked into the third book, for all we know, the third book could wrap things up, but also leave a lot of things open for exploration in, you know, like side books and novellas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Who is your favorite relationship?
Favorite relationship? Again, this is one that, like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite relationship because I love it and it's amazing and we should look up to it. But I will say my favorite relationship is Nasun and Jija, her dad. So the dad and the daughter.
Interesting.
And again, disclaimer, not saying that it's my favorite because I think it's a good relationship. It's not. It's toxic. But I think it's like, it's interesting. And especially it's interesting in the way that it very quickly develops because early on, it's kind of that thing where she's like, I hate mom and I love dad. And then she's like, oh, dad just killed my brother. That's interesting. And then she's like, oh, dad also just now hit me and is acting kind of weird. Fuck dad, but I'm gonna pretend to still love dad, but like I kind of still love dad. It's confusing. But it's like a very quick thing that happens. Because there's like 2 lines, right? Where she goes from being like, I love dad despite all this. And then she's like, dad just hit me. I will never feel the same way about dad again.
Yeah.
Which I think also, like, I already respected the character of Nasun so much. But I think that made me respect her even more. Because in that like brief moment where that change happens, she does sort of try and forgive him in a sense, but she also is like, but I cannot forget that and I cannot let that go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She also establishes in that moment, like, I know that if I call him daddy, he is reminded of the fact that I am his daughter and that he loves me, so I can now use that to my benefit. And I'm like, that's another reason why I like respect her so much in that moment, because that's a very difficult thing to come to this part where you're like, she knows that she can kind of manipulate him in a sense, but she needs to for survival in that way. She's like, I know now that I can use this. And she does very quickly. She uses it like 2 or 3 times in a row to save her ass, because she's like, he just hit me. I'm not going to let this happen again. Hey, let me remind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I mean, I don't think that there's any relationship in this book that you can totally say is like an ideal relationship. But I think that's the point, right?
Actually, there is one relationship, and that's between Tonki and Yarka.
Damn right. Goddamn right.
Oh, I love them. I wish they were in it more. I hope they're in it more.
They are amazing, and I love them, and I can't wait to see how they are portrayed and who they are portrayed by in the upcoming series or movies.
Excited.
I would cast Whoopi Goldberg
No.
and Whoopi Goldberg. Sorry. Well, not. I'm going to shut the fuck up.
Okay. I have to ask, is there anything in your opinion, completely what you think that you would have done differently? Anything that you would have personally changed? For example, the only thing I can really think of, because I think she did everything else like really good, I wish there was a moment in Hoya's point of view where we saw Esun and Nasum's like path cross without them knowing. Like maybe they were in the same village at the same time, or like stocking up on something, or literally passing each other in the forest. I wish we had that moment, because I feel like it would have made like a lot of suspense for the readers. Obviously, I think they end up going in different paths anyways, but I think that would have been really cool. I wish there was this moment, maybe in the next book, that will happen, where right before they meet, they cross path, and the reader thinks they're gonna just skedaddle without meeting each other, and then they end up like turning around and seeing each other or something. Yeah. I just wish there was that moment where they almost see each other, but then they don't.
What if that happened in the third book, and basically they both have a hold of the moon, and they're both trying to bring it back, and like they don't sense that
But
the
they're on
other,
the other
yeah,
side.
and then they bring it back, and they're like, and then their hands touch, and they're like, oh, daughter, mother. It's like, I don't know, that could be very dramatic.
That would be very dramatic, but I love
They'd
it.
be like, oh, you were bringing the moon here too? That's crazy. The only missed opportunity I would see is like, I kind of wanted more with Shafa, weirdly enough. Again, like I said way earlier on in this podcast, I think he has a wild ride of a story in this that I did not expect. But the only missed opportunity I say would be to have more of him. Maybe like I don't know. I'm not the writer of this, but I would have had a little bit more of him, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the silver I'm very intrigued about. This like
Yeah.
urge, that the thing that makes him immortal and makes him a guardian, and how if it comes out of him, then that's, he ends up dying. And I'm very intrigued to see how that is going to play out in the future. Like, I know we get a snippet of like how he got it and stuff, but I want to see more of him resisting it, because it is, he does care for Nasum so much, like to the point where he's like a father figure, but he does have this constant thought in his head that he needs to kill her, because that is what the silver is telling him, which is so interesting. I had no idea that was like how the Guardians work. I agree.
Yeah.
I wish there was a little bit more.
That's another thing that we kind of got brought into this book that we didn't get in the first book that I think helps expand everything so much more, is knowing that is within Shafa and knowing that's kind of like what unfortunately drives him. Another missed opportunity, in my opinion, that I think, and maybe this is just like my Western ideology of always needing comedy, but I think that there could have been a few more humorous bits in this, a few more humorous moments, because this book is very dark and in some ways very depressing. And again, that makes sense. And like, on one hand, who am I to be able to be like, this book should be happier? Blah, blah, blah,
Hey, this is based on opinions, don't worry.
Right. But if I were to say any missed opportunity, I would say it would be a little bit more moment of relief. And I guess I would refer to the second to last Harry Potter movie for what I mean by that, because the second to last Harry Potter movie, very dark, but there is that moment of like dancing between Harry and Hermione that is a little bit softer. It's not really a humorous moment.
It releases tension, though.
Yeah. That's what I would say, is I think that there needs to be a little bit more release of tension in this book. But again, that might just be my Western ideology of the pacing of a story, and I don't want to... Nothing against NK. Her book is amazing, and I would not... If somebody came to me and said, you have the power to change something about this book, I would be like, okay, then I'm not going to change anything. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to interfere in anybody's art in that way. But if I were to come up with any missed opportunity, that might be it.
All right. Sounds good. So we're going to play a little game here. Okay. Before the podcast, I gave you a word bank. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read the definition of the word, and you have to pick what you think fits the definition.
Okay.
But you can only use the word once. So if you use the word and it's wrong, you can't use it again.
Okay.
All right. An extended winter, lasting at least 6 months per imperial destination, triggered by seismic activity.
What was like the first part of that one again?
So an extended winter, lasting at least 6 months.
5th season.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I felt that was a trick question. I was like, 6 months. Okay.
One who studies stone in its place in the natural world. General term for scientists.
Geomest.
Yes.
2 for 2. All right.
Next we have a member of the order said to be predated the fulcrum. They track, protect against, and guide origins in the stillness.
Oh, Guardians, right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why this is so much pressure.
Alright, the ability to manipulate thermal, kinetic, and related forms of energy.
I want to say the wrong answer just as a joke, but I won't. Orogeny.
Yeah. A beverage traditionally served at negotiations.
Oh, okay. This one I'm gonna get wrong. Is this Kirkuza?
It is not. Next we have a volcano.
Blow.
Yeah. Yep. Can you say it again for our audience?
See, blow. BLOW, blow. Like,
Yeah.
you know? Or like something else. But we won't go
Stop.
there. When you sent me the word bank, that was the first word. And so the first word I read, you were like, here's the word bank. And you sent it. And the first word was blow. And I was like, Jen? What game are we
What's
playing?
going on?
What are we going to be talking about?
All right, next one. In the fulcrum, unringed origin children who are still in basic training.
Nodes?
Nope.
Dang it. Okay.
All right, next we have a medium-sized mammal, sometimes kept as a pet or used to guard homes and livestock.
Nodes?
It is not.
I told you I was in like a fever dream for a good chunk of this book, so there's some things that are very muddied in my head. And also, I am blonde, so go on.
The network of maintained stations placed throughout the stillness in order to reduce or quell the seismic events.
Okay, I got this.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Nodes?
But you technically don't get a point for that one, but that is that one.
I know.
All right, last one. Rarely seen sentient humanoid species whose flesh, hair, and etc. resembles stone.
Stone Eater.
Yeah!
Hell yeah.
So, drink one, which is called Safe.
Oh, okay.
And then Grits is the kids that don't have any rings yet are still in training.
See, I literally said the word nodes, and I read the word grits, and I was like, no, that's it. But I had already said it, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna sink into my incorrectness.
I'm just gonna guess.
Yeah. We did it. Do I get a prize?
No. Moving on. So for our next section here, because this does have a sequel, we are gonna try to guess what was gonna happen next. So I haven't read the book, you haven't read the book, we're going in completely blind. I don't know what's gonna happen, but from reading this one, obviously it's gonna be heavily influenced by Nasum. I think it's gonna get to the point where I have two predictions. Either Esun is going to kill Shafa, and Nasum is going to react with her power, and it's going to hit like ultimate form where she's not going to know how powerful she is, and it's just going to ice like everything, and it's going to be Ice Age number 16. I also think that maybe it will be she has to choose between her mother or Shafa, and she's going to end up killing one of them, and I think it's going to be her mom. But all I know is that in this next book, I better be seeing a moon. And it better be ending those seasons.
Yes.
So those are my predictions.
I love it. I love those predictions. I love the idea of seeing the moon. I want to see hella moon. I want to see the moon so big that it spooks me.
I need the moon to come back to Earth Daddy.
Moon and the Earth Daddy. A match made in heaven.
Alright, what about you?
So I think President Ika is gonna take her rightful place at the throne of the world. Katniss is gonna come in and shoot her last minute.
Stop. Wrong book.
My actual predictions. So there's a lot of different ways this could go. I don't have any like strong predictions that I'm like, I know this is gonna happen. I know this is gonna happen. Something that I think might happen that I think would be very interesting to see, and beautiful and tragic at the same time, is I think in some way Essen is going to sacrifice her life for Nessun. I think that might happen in a way that Nessun never knows about either.
Okay.
I think that's what would make it tragic. And this just comes from me, who's a writer, who's like, oh, what would make somebody cry while reading this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this would make somebody cry. Yeah, I just think because also there's so much emphasis in this book about Essen saying, oh, I taught my daughter this so she would survive. And when she's teaching those kids, she's like, oh, I'm teaching them so they can survive. Like, that is something that, what she thinks she's doing, really. Yeah. Whether or not that's true is a whole nother discussion, but she thinks that she's teaching her daughter and these kids what to do because she's teaching them for survival. Because she's like, I want you guys to survive, even though I'm also being, like, abusive, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that might be something that happens in the third book, is Essen, in some shape or form, sacrifices herself to save Nessun. And I think that Nessun will not know about it for whatever reason.
I'm wondering how, like, Hoya is going to react to it, too.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Because I feel like one of them has to die.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody that's lived so many lives. At least that's what the first book makes it feel like. I feel like she's gotta die. Which is sad.
Every main character gotta die.
Gotta.
Yeah.
Gotta. So is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Read these books. I mean, probably if you're here, especially if you're at the end of this podcast, you probably have read this book. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, please read this book. I mean, we might have talked about it, we might have spoiled everything, but I can promise you this is one of those stories that it is so worth it to pick up this goddamn book and actually read it yourself, because it's an experience that we can talk about for hours and hours on end, but it is a very personal, very exceptional experience. Please read this book. And then also come talk to us about it, because not enough people are reading these right now.
Exactly. We need like a fan base going.
Yeah.
But I would disagree with you saying that we spoiled everything. We definitely didn't. There was so much. We didn't talk about anything in this book, to be honest. There's so much that happens. And it's like what, 400 pages? And she's able to get so much laid out. It's insane. But definitely pick up this series. You can get the entire series for like maybe $20 on Amazon right now. So it's worth it, I promise.
Yeah, and there's a reason, like I mentioned earlier, this author was the first to get this award 3 times for a full trilogy. There's a reason for that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a reason why the story rights got picked up and why it's going to be made into a series. And then Jen and I are going to be those people who go around to all of our friends and are going to be like, we read this before it was cool.
To be honest, once it does start getting that popularity boost, it will get more popular. And I will be saying, I read this and made 2 podcasts before it got crazy popular. So.
Absolutely. Woman of color in power. Woman of color in power. That's all I have to say.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Women of color in power. Period.
Yes. That's all you need.
That alone, we need it. We need it. We've always needed it. We will always need it.
Absolutely.
Go out and vote. If you're not registered to vote,
do it.
Please register to vote. Here is your sign. Register to vote. Vote. Even if we get those terrible times where somebody says, hey, let's vote on whether or not people should be people. Vote that people should be people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Before we get out of hand, we are going to set up a rating scale, but we're going to do something a little different. We're going to make up our own. I would give The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin 8 voting for people to be people out of 10.
Yes. That really is such one of the most important moments of this book, because it like rings so unfortunately true to the political climate.
You know what? Yeah. I'm changing my vote. I'm changing it to be 8 out of 8. I want it to be a unanimous vote.
Yeah, unanimous. No 2/3 bullshit.
We're gonna make that boy unanimous. But yeah, awesome book. Great book. Listen to this podcast. It's gonna be a long one. We're gonna be back with the 3rd one. I absolutely guarantee it. I'm excited to read it, and yeah, I love this series.
Me too. I thought it was really clever when I came up with this. So my rating scale is the Mohs hardness scale, so it's 1 to 10, in reflection to, geodes and all that good stuff.
Racks.
So 10 on the Mohs hardness scale is diamond. 9 on the Mohs hardness scale is sapphire. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Have you read the book? I'm going to give this book a sapphire rating. 9 out of 10 on the Mohs hardness scale.
Amazing. We love to see it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We always have a great time with you here, Kim.
Thank you for having me, man. I always love talking with you. I love talking about this series, and I'm so excited for when we finally get to the 3rd one.
I know. I can't wait. We're going to have to wait. I don't know if we should wait another year, make it like a tradition. Get those 3 years alone, just like Jemisin did.
I kind of feel like we should, because probably by then is when all of the information will come out about like the series. So that might be the perfect time.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, The Book Stop. And thank you to everybody who will eventually listen.
I think the next episode we're going to be on is going to be not till later this year. So just keep an eye out for that episode. Kim will be back.
Hell yeah. Until next time. Bye!
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Bookstop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.